My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. Today we have Jesus with his apostles in an area well outside of Palestine. He's in the area of Tyre and Sidon, about 50 kilometers away from the lake of Gennesaret, where he usually hung out. It's about 30 miles away. So he's trying to get away from any possible persecution from Herod Antipas. It's outside of his jurisdiction, so he's getting his apostles to focus. He's training them, and he's helping them to understand the important things in his ministry with no kind of distractions. Now, suddenly it looks as though here in today's Gospel in St. Mark that he's interrupted by this pagan woman. Mark describes her as a Syrophoenician. Matthew describes her as a Canaanite. But so she's not a Jew, but she shows nevertheless signs of faith and confidence in Jesus. She even calls him Son of David. And she just does not let up in asking for help, asking Jesus to cure her daughter who's possessed by a demon. And though it looks like an unexpected interruption, a kind of bothersome annoyance, certainly to the apostles, according to St. Matthew's account, they even ask Jesus, send this lady away. Shoo her away, practically like a dog, right? So, but the whole time, Jesus, he knows that she would come, or he knew that she would come, and that he would use this as a teaching moment. And the first thing we see is that she's perceived as annoying, right? Bothersome. And we all have people in our lives that are bothersome, that are difficult, but we must see this in the greater plan of God's providence. Because we all have this tendency to label others with a simple tag that seems to define them entirely, especially when they kind of bother us, right? Oh, this one there, oh, she's a micromanager, and that person in my office has got a shrill voice, or he's an alpha male, or that one's a beta male, or, as though those labels were to summarize or compartmentalize in a simple stroke of a pen everything that person is. That person gets an A grade, that person gets a B minus. And of course people have defects. Nobody behaves perfectly. And so sometimes we give them a failing grade, and that seems to kind of like they don't get into our Ivy League school, right? They're defined by that grade that we give them. But of course, here our Lord goes well beyond these simple categories. He saw all her possibilities, all her potentialities, even beyond what she herself was aware of. He saw her good side. And yes, she was annoying and maybe irritating by her interruptions, but they were motivated by deep anguish, by love for her daughter, and they also point to a deeper faith and a trust in Jesus. And of course, Jesus, picked up on all of this, and he not only saw her distress, her faith, her persistence, and how undismayed she is by any obstacle. And so he thought to himself, wow, anyone with that kind of stamina must have a pretty deep faith and must have deep values. I'll let her keep at it. Just for the apostles to see this will help them. And so he lets her persevere, and he knew that she would keep at it and that he would eventually heal her daughter. Right? And this would be an occasion, a teaching moment for his apostles. So the first lesson that we learn, at least, is not to merely stay on the surface by judging others by appearance or by the immediate thing that we see. I read a book recently by an American priest His name is Father Bill Byrne, and he wrote a book, kind of lessons about joy and happiness. He's a priest from Washington who, and in the opening chapter of his book, he tells about the different lessons that he learned from his own dog, Maggie, who had to be put down because she had a tumor on her chest, and anyway, she had to be put down. But I thought it was quite funny. The first lesson he learned from Maggie, he says, is don't judge. He said, my Maggie saw me in my most personal moments, such as collapsing on the floor after a workout or griping after a stressful encounter, throughout all my moods and all my ups and downs. She never shook her head in disgust. She just looked at me with love. She saw me for all my wonder, not my blunder. God looks at us the same way. He sees beyond our unworthiness and rejoices in our potential. Okay? That's from this Father Bill Byrne, who actually was, I just found out, was just named Bishop of Springfield, Massachusetts. So, and that book apparently is doing quite well. But maybe, who knows, maybe Jesus didn't have such a bad impression of dogs when he responded to the woman's continuous and repeated petitions for help by saying to her, let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs. I mean, that's, okay, throw it to the dogs. It sounds like a harsh statement, but of course, in the end, the Lord understood the order of divine providence, which is that God's plan for salvation was first for the people of Israel, the children, and with time, progressively, that the message of salvation would go to the rest of humanity, including the pagans, including the Gentiles, and of course, many of those had great virtues and, of course, became great saints. And hence, St. Paul became, of course, the apostle to the Gentiles. And I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised if St. Paul maybe he even baptized the Syrophoenicians and maybe this woman. Maybe he went to her family. Maybe he converted her daughter. But this is just to show that our Lord had a deep love for his own people, the people of God, the children. Yet, but he also sees the deep faith of this woman and her confidence. And I think the way he said it, well, I don't think she was offended. When he says it is not right to throw the food of the table to the dogs, well, that sounds harsh to us, but I don't think she took that in offended, or she was not offended by that. Because why? Because it all had to do with his tone, the way he was addressing her with dignity, with great love. He wasn't saying it in a belittling way, which we, I suppose, assume he did. We read it like that. And that's why Pope Francis has spoken about developing a revolution, what he calls a revolution of tenderness. A revolution of tenderness. This was in a TED Talk that he gave in Vancouver back in 2017, where he appeared on a very, very massive screen there in front of all these techies and these pretty much a secular audience. And he insisted a lot as he spoke to these people in this massive crowd, and then all these others connected online, just how important it is the way we talk to each other, the way we dialogue, the way we listen and develop relationships, and precisely the way we not judge and tag each other. In our media-driven digital world, he said, which is preventing people from learning how to live wisely and to think deeply and to love generously. He talked about this mental pollution of screen overload, which impedes us from actually coming in contact with the marginalized, with those who are in some way suffering. Because the only thing we're in contact with is our screen and our mouse and our keyboard, and that kind of prevents us. It puts us in a kind of a bubble. Naturally, the Lord rewards the humility of this Syrophoenician woman. He rewards her humility and her perseverance by curing her daughter. Of course, she didn't immediately see this healing, right? He said, "Go home, it's okay, your daughter's healed." Well, she also had to have faith that this actually happened. So from all this, let us learn today not to judge, not to label others, to see them truly as sons and daughters of God. Maybe you can pick somebody right now that you find annoying in your life, that really, rackles you, and maybe you can find something new in them, some good quality, really good quality that you haven't seen, you've been kind of blinded to, maybe. I don't know, maybe. And maybe you can see them with new eyes. And so today, we ask this perhaps of Our Lady of Lourdes, who can intercede for us. That's the feast of Our Lady of Lourdes. Bernadette Soubirous, who saw the visions of this beautiful lady in Massabielle in 1857, she also persevered and also showed faith and trust, even while she was surrounded by doubt and people that labeled her as well. But in the end, if we persevere, Our Lady will reward us. Our Lord, of course, will reward us as well. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations you've communicated to me in this meditation. I ask your help to put them into effect. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask your pardon for my sins and the grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Immaculate Mother, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.